What is up everybody, my name is LeakyTapsMan and this is a wishlist video for Fable 4. Apologies that this didn't come out last week because I had a lot of problems with recording and time restrictions meant that I couldn't get it out, so I thought rather than release it on a strange day I'd just wait till next week, so apologies for those of you that were looking forward to that. Anywho, I'm not gonna lie and say that Fable is my favourite series. It is a good series, I enjoy it, I've got all the games, but I don't particularly think it's amazing. But it has a few distinctions that separate it from the pack of RPGs, mainly the fairy tale style setting and the witty dialogue, which is quite funny. Those are the main things. That said, there are some major improvements to be made, which this video shall outline. The key ones. There are obviously lots of little things that I'll leave out for the sake of time, but these are the main things that I would like in Fable 4. As for the timeline, between Fable 1 and 2 we saw the massive 500 year gap. That was much less in Fable 3. I would like the same kind of jump of 20 or so years, maybe up to 50. I think another 500 year jump would be a bit excessive and technology would be far too advanced and it wouldn't really feel like a Fable game in my opinion. It would become far too sci-fi. Of course we had elements of steampunk settings within Fable 3, which is fine, it worked really well with the art style. I just think don't go much further than what we've gone. As for location, Albion's a great setting and had a great variety of towns and locations in general. What I would like is the discovery of other continents, so this could be part of the main storyline where, say, we're king or queen and we feel the need to expand our empire, so we go out on a voyage, maybe on a ship or an airship like a zeppelin, and basically we feel like taking them over because we are just cold-hearted individuals, or we could maybe meet them for trading and expansion of technology. Basically just give us an excuse to expand the world beyond Albion, because the new world was hinted at in previous games. I believe you sent certain people out on a expedition, but they unfortunately died when we did it, so I think the progression of locations is a must. And if in Fable 4 they do go down the whole staying on as king or queen, then make the choices that we have not so limited, in the sense that we basically just got given the option to either appease the townspeople or make it so that we gained money, and it just felt very limited for what we essentially were. I mean, a king or queen should have absolute reign instead of just being given one or two options by our advisors. The whole second half of Fable 3 was a bit underwhelming, that's probably putting it quite lightly, but give us far more choices, make them actually mean something instead of just accumulating money or popularity, and have a lot of moral grey areas to make some actual tough decisions and not decisions that you know are going to affect your achievements beforehand, which is kind of what I had in Fable 3, that's the feeling that I got anyway. One big thing I would like is more unexplored dungeons and caves and stuff like that, similar to what you see in Skyrim and Oblivion. Fable, in far too many instances, felt very linear, and I'd just say, outside of the side quests, give us some stuff to explore, give us a network of caves, dungeons with rare enemies, with rare weapons, and just give that feeling of exploration that Fable seems to lack compared to a lot of other RPGs. And one big alteration that I would like in the game is to de-simplify the game. Obviously, don't make it too complex. I'm not saying make it like a Diablo game or something, but Fable 3 was far too dumbed down in my opinion, especially with the combat and the experience system. The one button system works to an extent, I just think it could be expanded on a bit. I mean, it seems like the combat system was aimed at children really, when you've got to think not many children will play this game given the age rating. And also give us some increased difficulty options, because Fable 2 and 3 were actually incredibly easy, and at no point did I ever feel like I was going to die, not even close, so give us a hard option on top of the regular one. As for enemies, I'd say bosses need to be included, real bosses, massive ones, stuff like dragons as well, and an actual final boss, because the game's just ended on a freaking decision, which I don't know whose idea that was, but it is terrible. You need a massive boss, that is RPG 101. I know Fable doesn't like to follow the crowd with a lot of things, but this is one where it definitely should. I would also like them to add some kind of challenges to improve your armour and stuff like that. and weapons, for instance. So in-game challenges like deflect a sword hit 100 times, for instance, should give you +1 heavy armor defense. That's just an example, a very poor one admittedly, but you get the idea. Stuff that rewards us for playing a certain way. And a couple of things that should come back from Fable 2 that were absent from Fable 3. The inventory menu needs to come back in some form instead of going to the sanctuary each time. The sanctuary as a concept is not a bad idea, but replacing the actual menu with it was a bit moronic, I think. So I'd like to see the inventory come back. And also, I would like the emote wheel to come back. Nothing beats whipping out a few moves in front of 8 or so people and just dancing the night away. Emotes were like one of my favourite things in Fable 2, and I was kind of gutted that Fable 3 didn't have as many. So I'd say Fable 4, just make a crap load, including weird stuff like the robot. And a few more relatively minor things. When we're buying property and just managing over property in general, let us repair every single one instead of going one at a time. Fix the magic trail that tells you where you're meant to go, because it either doesn't show up or it just makes you walk into a wall, or it tells you to go somewhere where you're not meant to go. So navigation is a pretty big one for me actually. I'd like the ability to buy different pets other than dogs. Let us have stuff like birds and lizards and allow us to call upon them in combat. Give them each their own set of benefits. So say your dog can go digging for treasure, maybe your bird can fly and scout for enemies and stuff like that. I don't know, that's a very limited concept of it, but you can see where I'm going with this. I'd also say a bigger variety of spells, that probably goes without saying. Make jobs more worthwhile, because the pay is pretty rubbish, and outside of gathering a bit of gold at the start of the game, they are pretty much useless. So an alternative to this could be to actually make your jobs worth something, in the sense that if you build up your blacksmith level, for instance, you can make certain swords and customize your existing swords, for instance. And finally, something that I think is most likely going to happen with Fable 4, now that Peter Molyneux is gone, is slow down the hype train, because every single Fable game, you hype it to the moon and back, and tell us that it's going to be the best thing ever, that it's going to cure AIDS and it's going to do our taxes, and the game just never lives up to the billing. But like I say, it's mainly Peter Molyneux that does this, so I imagine this won't happen again. But Fable is pretty synonymous with writing a check that it can't cash. Oh, and while I remember, no more running animations that look like we're skidding on ice. I don't get what they're doing with that, but our main character looks like Bambi on ice, running around, so fix that. And that is more or less everything I would like in a Fable 4 game. As always, I would call upon yourselves to give me some feedback, tell me what you guys want in Fable 4, whether you even want a Fable 4. I always look forward to reading your responses, and thanks very much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so, it is very much appreciated, and thanks for your time. Peace out.